With Gillinor Games Season 5 coming out in November, I need to make some GP to help make this year's prize pool as big as possible. That's why I asked 3 players from this upcoming season what their best unusual moneymakers are on Runescape to help me out. Let's see where their methods and some other ones I tested place on the unusual money-making leaderboards. Up first, Josh's in Gaming wants me to check out Djibouti's shop in Taibo Wanai. He sells some pretty unique stuff, tribal and villager clothing, gem-tip machetes, he'll even buy a gout tuber off of you. What's unique about his shop though is that every transaction is done through trading sticks, which is the official currency of this part of Karamja. Trading sticks can be bought and sold on the Grand Exchange, and they have a pretty consistent price of between 8 to 12 GP for an average of 10. It's been that way for almost a decade. While GE prices fluctuate for all the items in his shop, trading stick prices don't, so if prices are just right, you can abuse Djibouti's shop if you sell him the right items. My item of choice today is a jade. Jades go for around 290 GP on the Grand Exchange, and you can sell one to Djibouti for 90 trading sticks. But if you have the Karamja gloves equipped, which you can get by completing a tier of the Karamja diary, that number goes up to 120. So if we buy a jade for 290 GP from the Grand Exchange and then sell it to him for 120 trading sticks, and 120 trading sticks can be sold for 10 GP each on the Grand Exchange, that essentially means that this jade is actually worth 1,200 GP, almost 10 times its GE price. With those kind of numbers, we are in for some serious profit. You can sell around 6,000 jades per hour to this shop. Around 50,000 jades are traded per day in the game, so you will be able to buy them, just keep in mind that it probably won't be instant. With all those jades bought, you can start selling them to Djibouti. Now, the price at which he buys from you does go down the higher the stock is. The change rate is 2%, so I found that selling 20 jades per world, then world hopping was the sweet spot when it comes to efficiently selling here. Yes, you could sell maybe 5 to 10 per world and make more money, but that also means you're spending longer selling the jades, but that's totally up to you. The shop also destocks the jades fairly quickly, which is really nice. That's pretty much the method. This is kind of a hop and shop method on steroids because we're buying an item from the GE, selling it to a shop for another item, which we're then selling back to the Grand Exchange. After 1 hour, I had sold 6,000 jades to Djibouti and ended up with a massive amount of trading sticks, 546,846 of them. Now, it was finally time to sell into the Grand Exchange. But first, skincare, something most of us don't know much about, but know it's something we should be doing, which is why I've partnered with Geology for today's video. After answering a few simple questions, Geology will send you a custom skincare regime right to your door. Living in Arizona means that I'm constantly pelted by the sun. So I know that using a moisturizer with sunscreen in it is very important for me. Geology has me covered with a morning cream with SPF in it for sun protection. My skin also used to get very dry all the time, especially at night. It would be red and flaky when I woke up, but ever since using Geology's night cream, which is great for sensitive skin, I've barely had any redness or flakiness, which I've been wanting for years. Keeping my skin healthy and protected is now part of my daily routine, and I know that long term that's going to be so important, keeping my skin looking young and fresh. All it took was answering a few simple questions, and Geology had me covered with the perfect routine. With over 10,000 5-star reviews and 41 awards, I'm not alone in loving Geology and their scientifically backed, effective ingredients. If you'd like to get 100% off your first custom skincare set, a free gift, and up to 50% off an additional skincare product, use my link in the description, QR code on screen, or code SoupRS100. Help support my channel and your skin by checking it out. Okay, so I listed all of the trading sticks on the Grand Exchange for 10 GP each. What's great about them being this cheap is that there's no GE tax on them, so we aren't losing any money from tax. In total, the 6,000 jades cost us 1.93 million GP for an average of 321 GP per jade. I was able to buy 2,000 of them for 287 each, but the rest were bought for 339 each. That 1.9 million though feels like nothing compared to the whopping 5.46 million GP that the trading sticks sold for. Subtract the cost of the jades, and in 1 hour of selling jades to Djibouti, we made over 3.5 million GP. 3.5 mil. That is a top 5 method that we've ever tested on this series. Pretty insane, but I do want to mention that the trading sticks did not instantly sell. It took almost a day for all of them to finally sell. Around 1 to 1.5 million trading sticks are traded per day. That is a lot, but not enough for you to be able to instantly sell them, especially since they have a buy limit of 18k, so you need to be patient when selling. But they do sell and make you some really good, unusual money on RuneScape, which we love to see. Sea Engineer suggested that I do something with soul runes since they've gotten so expensive. 3 years ago, we tested one of the best moneymakers on the unusual money-making leaderboard, which was buying cosmic runes. The margin of the shop price compared to the GE price and how quickly we were able to buy the runes led to a really solid moneymaker. In fact, it still holds up to this day, currently making you 1.3 million GP an hour. Well, a second rune has hit the leaderboards, and that's soul runes. Take a look at the price of soul runes over the past 3.5 months. They've shot up from 180 GP to 414 GP, a 130 40% increase. Now, while I'm not 100% sure, the rise in price lines up perfectly with the release of Aether Runes, which require a Soul Rune to make. Aether Runes were released on the 14th of May, and as you can see on this graph, that's exactly when the price starts to rise. With Soul Runes being so expensive, it has now made it extremely profitable to buy them from shops in bulk and sell them to the Grand Exchange, just like I did with Cosmic Runes. 4 shops in the game have Soul Runes for sale, but only 2 of them are worth it profit-wise. The Magic Guild store in Yanil and Baba Yaga's Magic Shop on Lunar Isle. Both stores have their Soul Rune prices starting at 300 GP with a change rate of 0.1%, which is amazing because that means I can buy out the entire stock of 250 and still profit. After buying 250, the shop lists them at a price of 374, so with Soul Runes going for over 410 GP, it's impossible to lose money. Per world, I'm spending a little over 84,000 GP on 250 Soul Runes, and I can sell them on the Grand Exchange for 101,500 GP, which means that per world, we are making over 17,000. And look how quickly I'm able to buy out the entire Soul Rune stock and hop, around 6 times per minute, which is 100k every single minute. This is just our classic hop and shop method, really not a lot to it. Hop to a new world, buy out the stock, and repeat. I did run into a couple of other accounts that were buying out some of the Soul Runes, but luckily the stock replenishes quite quickly, so I never ran into any issues with never being able to buy any. I also realized that when doing hop and shop methods that require me to hop worlds a lot, I can actually customize the keyboard keys I use to hop worlds, so I changed it to my left arrow key, which made hopping super easy. Before, I was doing Control-Shift left arrow key, so that was a nice quality of life change for this method. After 1 hour, I ended up with 67,397 Soul Runes, which cost me 22.8 million GP. I guess if there was any downside to this method, it's that you need a bit of starting capital for it. But a massive upside to this is that Soul Runes are a huge daily volume item, so you'll be able to sell your runes very quickly. In my case, I listed them for 414 GP, and after 15 minutes, all of them sold for 27.36 million GP. So subtract that original 22.8 mil, and we are left with a final profit of 4.5 million GP. 4.5 million an hour buying Soul Runes from a rune shop. With those prices, this is currently one of the best moneymakers in the entire game. It comfortably ranks in the top 3 unusual moneymakers of all time. We'll see what happens to the price of Soul Runes in the long run, but with current prices, you're looking at some amazing money. A top 5 method into a top 3 method. If you like those methods, make sure to hit that subscribe button to help me reach 415,000 subs. I've got some more GG5 stuff coming your way soon as well, which you won't want to miss. SkillSpecs is back with another method for me. Last time he suggested that I make swamp bark bodies, and I actually lost money, so let's see what he's got for me this time. He says that I should try and loot the ammo that is left on the ground by players AFKing at the Gemstone Crab. If you like AFKing and gaining XP, then you'll like this boss. It's a group boss, which means that other players can attack it alongside you, but it doesn't have a health bar. This health bar that you see appear above it is actually not a health bar, but rather the amount of time left until it digs to a new location, which is about once every 10 minutes. That means you can click on this boss once and not have to click again for 10 more minutes, and you gain XP the entire time. A lot of people are AFKing here, which means that there's been a rise in players purchasing combat equipment, especially bolts and arrows. And since people are mega AFK and lazy, they don't pick up the bolts and arrows that their accumulators don't bring back to them. And that's where I'm come in. I'm doing this entire place a favor by picking up everyone's litter, everyone's trash, and keeping it for myself. Just look at all this juicy loot that appears for me as this boss fight is going on. I'm talking amethyst and rune darts and arrows, bone bolts, kebit bolts, atlatl darts, and even rune knives. All in small amounts, of course, but over the course of an hour, all of this could add up. So that's what I did. I hopped to a pretty populated world that had what looked like a lot of people here at the Gemstone Crab and began picking up every single item that I saw appear on the ground. When the Gemstone Crab dug to a new location, I followed it and did the same thing. Luckily, even though everyone's attacking from a different spot, all the leftover loot appears on a single tile, so I don't have to run around and pick things up. I can just stand on specific tiles and it all appears for me. Nice and easy. So how much did I make doing this for 1 hour? Well, you might be surprised. I think we got a bit lucky because we found someone who wasn't picking up their rune knives. I picked up 688 of them for a total of 166k, the most profitable item by far. The arrows didn't add up to too much GP, but the darts did. Amethyst and adamant darts made us the most. I also picked up any gems that I saw on the ground as well. In total, all of this loot is worth 402k in the price checker, but all of it sold on the GE for 393k, so still pretty close to 400k. This is way more than I was expecting, to be honest, but I think that's a pretty great amount to make. The GP per hour here will of course vary depending on what people are and aren't picking up. There may be an hour where nothing good is being dropped, or there may be an hour where something like dragon darts aren't being picked up, which I've seen happen. This one is definitely more just for fun, but it is a very unusual method, and we're picking up everybody's trash, so it's good for Gillinor. Guys, I think I was sent one of the weirdest unusual moneymakers I've ever seen. Who knows what this item is? If you said apple mush, you'd be a nerd, but you'd be correct. The only time you'd ever come across this is if you happen to be brewing cider, which very few people do. Apple mush can be made with 4 cooking apples and a bucket at an apple press. Apple presses can be found at 3 brewing locations that exist in the game, as well as south of the Gnome Stronghold at the Apple Orchard. By using a cooked apple on the apple press, you can make some apple mush. The wildest thing about this method is how long the animation lasts when making it. First of all, when you're using the cooking apples on the apple press, it takes almost 4 seconds for anything to happen. Then the apples appear in this barrel. By the way, I know it takes 4 apples for this, but there are clearly 7 apples minimum in this barrel. Jagex, please fix. You then do a hilarious jumping animation, which many of you have probably never seen before. The apples turn into mush, and then you walk around to the front of the apple press, and the bucket in your inventory fills up with apple mush. In total, this entire animation lasts 12 seconds, and what's funny is you are unable to do anything else during those 12 seconds. The animation can't be canceled, and you are unable to teleport or log out. You can try and spam click move as much as you want, but you aren't getting out of this. I hopped to a PvP world to see if you could attack someone while doing this, and you can't. It even stops you from doing the jumping animation as you stomp on the apples, but you're still unable to move. I'm pretty sure this is one of the longest uninterrupted animations in the entire game. If anyone ever lures you here on a PvP world and tells you to use an apple on the apple press, do not do it. You will die. Also, this guy here is stomping on grapes, and it really reminds me of that one episode of Zoe 101 where one of the guys learns to drive a stick shift car by stomping on grapes. That was a thing, right? Or am I just imagining things? I don't know. Anyway, so this method, if you haven't guessed by now, is making apple mush at the apple press here in Alderaan. There's a bank fairly close to the apple press, so all I'm doing is taking out 5 buckets and 20 cooking apples, running over to the apple press, making 5 buckets of apple mush, then running back to the bank. Pretty simple and honestly effortless. Since the animation takes so long, you barely have to pay attention while doing this. I can make about 150 buckets of apple mush per hour. Now, if we take a look at the price and daily volume, it doesn't look very promising. In fact, the daily volume on the wiki is 0 because it's traded so infrequently and the price is showing at 720 GP, which means all of this is worth 108k. But I noticed that people were buying these for over 6,000 GP, so I listed them for 6k, and every single bucket of apple mush sold for 6.9k instantly. That means we made 1 million GP in 1 hour of making apple mush. If we take a look at the volume of the item over the past year, they are actually bought and sold, just not many of them. Around 10,000, but since there are always people buying every item in the game, whether it's for item collection purposes or some other reason, apple mush does in fact sell. Since the process of making them is so strange, and since so few people do this, since apple mush isn't needed for anything other than making cider, it's a fairly rare item. So before you test this method for yourself, just be aware that this most likely isn't consistent, but it does sell, and it sells consistently higher than the GE price, which made me a cool 1 million GP. Unusual and profitable, just how we like it. We've covered temple trekking before on this series, specifically killing nail beasts for nail beast nails, but I was made aware of another encounter while temple trekking that can make us some pretty good GP. Starting in Mauritania, if we talk to Smitty Ryak over here and offer to escort her to Paterdomus, then select Route 3 from the 3 routes here, we will always run into a combat encounter in Mortan, and that encounter is killing 5 fire shades. Now these shades drop fire remains, which each sell for over 6,000 GP. So each encounter has 5 shades, and you receive 5 fire remains, meaning you earn 30k. The great part about this is that when you're done, you don't have to finish the rest of the trek. You can just teleport back to Mauritania and start the trek again. You're essentially farming the first encounter of Route 3 every single time, which will always be these shades. Definitely an unusual way to go about farming these. Now what's nice about killing them this way is that they all will spawn fairly close to one another when you head into the encounter. Sometimes all of them will be aggressive, but sometimes you'll need to tag a few of them to get on you. That's why I brought a blowpipe. Now my method to kill the shades is by bursting them when they stack on top of one another. By running back and forth between the edge of something like this, you can stack up the shades and then just burst them down. Nice and easy. I'm using some pretty good mage gear for this, but honestly you could probably get away with just using Mystic or Blue Moon armor. I'm using the Blue Moon Spear to autocast burst. You should use an imbued salve amulet though, since these shades are susceptible to the increase in damage it gives since they are undead monsters. I'm also using a coffin to store all the shades in my inventory. With the Mauritania Legs 3, I'm able to start the encounters very quickly every time I finish them, which means that there's very little downtime. Anytime I get low on HP or prayer, I just can teleport to my house and use my rejuvenation pool to restore everything quickly. then just teleport back with my Mauritania legs. So how much GP an hour can I make doing a strange method like this? After 1 hour, I had collected 230 fire remains, which I was then able to sell very quickly for more than I originally thought. They sold for 6.4k each for a total of 1.45 million GP. We do have to subtract the cost of the runes that we used for bursting, which was 344k, which means we are left with a final profit of 1.1 million GP. If you're wondering why I didn't use barrage, it's because the cost of barrage versus burst is quite significant, and I don't think it would have sped up the kills by that much. I probably would have made 300k less, so bursting I think is the way to go. But again, this was more than I was expecting. Over a million GP an hour just farming the first encounter of a hard temple trek. We definitely take that. After a lot of work, I'm happy to say that we can finally retire the unusual money-making spreadsheet that I started over 5 years ago on Google Sheets. We now have an official unusual money-making website, unusualmoneymaking.com. On this website, you can see almost every method we've ever tested and the original profit per hour that it was. The best thing about this site though is that it now automatically updates with live Grand Exchange prices, so you can see exactly how much GP a method would make if you were to do it today. There's a handy button here called Current Profitability, and if you click it, you can see all the most current profitable methods. This kind of shows though that while some methods do crash when a video comes out, most recover fairly quickly and become as profitable as they were when I showed them off in the video. You can just click the method here on the left and it will open up the video that showed the method and how to do it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the new site. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. If there's anything wrong or incorrect on the site, please let me know so I can fix it. Thanks again to SkillSpec, C-Engineer, and Josh for the methods. They were absolutely amazing. A good sign of things to come for this upcoming season of Gielinor Games. All their channels will be linked below. We're only a few months away from Gielinor Games Season 5, so make sure you're subscribed as I've got some more videos coming out before the season to hype things up. Prize pool contributions are open, so if you want to be on this season's leaderboard, let me know in-game or in Discord. Thanks in advance.
If you have any unusual moneymakers you'd like me to try out, feel free to send them to me in the brand new Unusual Moneymakers channel in my Discord. Just click on this channel, create a new ticket, and submit your moneymaker. I'm excited to see what you guys send my way. Maybe you'll end up on the Unusual Moneymaking leaderboard. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.